Hi everyone, my name is Nicola Corti. I'm an engineer on the React team at Meta, and I'm super excited to be here back on the App.js stage to talk about frameworks. So I want to ask you, how many of you saw the React Native keynote at React Conf last week? Raise your hand. Not many, not many. Cool. So I want to start with one quote from that keynote. And by the way, go check it out, that keynote, because we announced quite a lot of things. But one quote that we shared during that keynote is this one. You're either using a framework or you're building your own framework. So this quote comes from our multi-year experience building tools to create mobile apps like React Native. We personally feel that you should be building production-ready application and focus on production code. You should not be solving common infrastructure problems that someone else already solved for you. So what are those problems that I'm referring to, those infrastructure problems? So I'm personally an Android engineer. I've been building Android apps for like 10 plus years. And I know how hard it is to build beautiful production-ready apps which can satisfy the user needs and keep up to date with an evolving market with different device form factors and so on. Every app developer out there, Android or iOS developer, that wants to ship to store and reach a 5-star rating, needs to solve a set of common problems. Problems like handling navigation, deep links, push notification, managing dependencies, and much more. And really, those problems are common to any type of mobile development. So in the React Native space, we call a tool that solves all of those problems a React Native framework. And last week at React Conf, we shared how using a React Native framework is now the official recommendation from the React Native team. And our framework of choice is Expo. So yes, you should be using Expo for a newly created project. So as I am at App.js, assume all of you know Expo, you just saw the keynote from Charlie and James. And now you might think, okay, I already use Expo, so what? What are you telling me? Well, today I want to deep dive a bit into some of the implications that the advent of React Native frameworks are coming, and why I personally believe React Native frameworks are a huge deal for the React Native ecosystem as a whole. So first I want to walk you through what are React Native frameworks exactly, how they're going to affect you, being either an app developer or a library developer, and why we, from the React team at Meta, we decided to implement those changes right now. So let's start from the what. What are React Native frameworks? So we recently updated the React Native.dev website to clarify what is a React Native framework. And we define a React Native framework as a toolbox with all the necessary APIs to let you build production-ready application. This concept is sort of similar to the same concept we have on web, with frameworks such as Next or Remix that offer a toolkit to build production-ready web application. So let's deep dive a little bit more on what are the responsibilities of what we call the core of React Native and the framework layer. So inside React Native core, we have APIs such as native components, modules, and the runtime. Those are basically our bread and butter. Components lets you render things on screen, and modules lets you access the native capabilities of the platform where your application is running. The runtime instead is taking care of orchestrating the various threads and making sure that React Native can just start when the application is starting. Then we have a series of APIs or integration points that are necessary for React Native to work properly. For example, integration with bundlers, such as Metro, integration with debugger tools, and so on. We also have integration points with JavaScript engines, such as Hermes, and native build tools, such as Gradle and CocoaPods. And finally, React Native Core is also responsible of defining APIs that let you extend the capabilities of React Native with third-party libraries. And so now let's move on to the framework layer. On the framework layer, starting from third-party library, the frameworks are responsible of helping you link together those dependencies, and we call this auto-linking. This, in a sense, simplifies the APIs that are provided by core to link libraries together. And talking about dependencies, another crucial task is keeping those dependencies up to date. And so another responsibility of frameworks is keeping the React Native versions up to date, that we know it has been a really long-standing pain for the React Native ecosystem. Then frameworks are also responsible of offering you solutions for routing and navigation, as you want to probably create more complex apps with various screens where users can navigate through. And frameworks are also responsible of helping you publish to the store, helping you running builds on the cloud, shipping over-the-air updates, and helping you scaffolding new projects. So if you've been doing React Native, you're probably either using Expo that solves all of those problems in green, or you stitch together several tools to build your own framework to solve those same problems. So we call a framework that is stitching together those tools built by your own a bespoke React Native framework. This is like a self-made framework. At Meta, we have our own bespoke framework, which helps us integrate React Native with our internal infrastructure and tooling. We don't use either Expo nor the community CLI. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing bad with using a bespoke framework. But you need to be aware of what are the trade-offs that comes from recreating your own solution. So we believe that most users out there will actually be better off using a recommended React Native framework instead. So we recently updated the reactnative.dev website. And by the way, that's the new front page. Go check it out if you haven't yet. And shout out to John for helping us with the design of this page. And in the front page, you will find that we give a recommendation for frameworks. And once we recognize that a framework meets our criteria to become a recommended framework, we are more than happy to spotlight it in the front page, as we do here for Expo. So now you might be wondering, what makes a bespoke framework that I created over the weekend actually a recommended framework? So we do have a set of guidelines with do's and don'ts that frameworks needs to follow to become an officially recommended framework from the React Native team. So those are the do's. And I want to spend a couple of moments here talking about one that I think is sort of both important but also a little bit controversial, which is be popular. Now you might be wondering, how can a framework become popular if it's not recommended? No? It's kind of the chicken and egg problem. Well, we added this requirement because we want to recommend frameworks that have top-notch developer experience. Expo, for example, has a decade-long experience in building frameworks on top of React Native, and we believe that their developer experience is best in the market. You can definitely go home and create your React Native framework over the weekend, but we won't be recommending it till the developer experience is as polished as we expect it to be. And on the don'ts, again, this is the list, but I want to focus on how most of them starts with the word fork. So don't fork, as we want frameworks to be a great team player in our ecosystem and don't create bubbles where users are locked in and can't move between frameworks if they wish to. So I talked about what are React Native frameworks. Now let's talk about how the introduction of React Native frameworks in our ecosystem is going to affect you. And the implications here are different whether you are an app developer or a library developer. Let's start from app developer. So if you're writing using Expo, you guessed it, you're fine. Like you're basically using the recommended solution, so there is nothing for you to worry about. If you're not using Expo, you're probably using a bespoke framework of some sort, which most likely uses the React Native community CLI under the hood. First, so if you're in this situation, you can definitely consider moving over to Expo. That's an option. And folks at Expo also created a web page for you to help you smooth your migration. However, sometimes it's just not possible for you to use Expo. You might have like all sorts of totally valid reasons. And by the way, I'm sure folks at Expo will be more than happy to hear your reasons on why you can't use them. But yeah, so if that is the case, you can't use Expo, what is going to change for you? Well, the answer is like little to nothing. The introduction of React Native frameworks should be completely transparent for you, even if you're not using a framework. However, we implemented some changes on our projects, newly created projects are scaffolded and created, and those are changes that you probably want to hear about. So whenever you create a new project using React Native Community CLI, you will invoke this command, npx React Native init. So now that we're recommending frameworks as the recommended way to create new projects, we wanted the init command to also follow our guidelines and tell you to use a framework. So this command had to be updated in some form. To understand how we updated this command, let's see how it actually is composed. So first, we invoke npx, and there is an npm package, which is the React Native package. So this is running code inside our package. But then we invoke the init command, and the init command comes from the React Native community CLI that is actually responsible of running this command. So to fully understand, let's try to run this command, and let's see what it does. So now I type React Native latest init, name of the app, and what this will do is, you see here at the bottom, it says downloading template. So what the init command is actually doing is fetching a template from somewhere, copying it over, and processing it. So this template, it's quite crucial. It's like an important part of the React Native ecosystem, no? Because that's sort of the starting point of all the apps that are using a bespoke framework. So touching it and evolving it can be complicated. So let's see, like, to fully understand how the init command has evolved, I want to touch on how this template has evolved and how the React Native community CLI has evolved. So let's start from the template. This template that we saw downloading it from the init command is actually coming from the React Native npm package. It's under the package and is inside a folder called, you guessed it, template. So yes, every version of React Native ships its version of the template inside. So if init should evolve to recommend React Native frameworks, we could just like delete the template and let init invoke create Expo app, or give you like a launcher with all the recommended frameworks. But as I said, template is quite crucial, so we just don't want to remove it overnight, as a lot of developers are depending on it. So at the same time, we also didn't want to bundle the template inside the React Native package anymore, because we feel that the template is sort of like a default implementation of our core APIs I was showing you before. So what we did is actually we moved the template to a new home. So the template will now live inside this other repository called React Native community/template. And we just moved over the files, like nothing has changed. But this will make it clear that the template is now one way to create the React Native app, but not the only one. And actually, it's not the recommended one, because the recommended is to use a recommended React Native framework. And we know that a lot of tools are actually depending on the template. For example, the React Native upgrade helper. If you've been using it to manually upgrade your React Native version, that tool is generated by diffing the template files. So yes, that tool will still keep on working, even with the recommendation for us to use Expo. So I talked about the template. Now let me talk about the CLI. The CLI was already located inside the React Native community/CLI repo. And let me stress out for a moment how crucial it is that we call this the React Native community CLI and not the React Native CLI, because it's effectively maintained by the community. And I want to give a big shout out to ColdStack here for the tremendous support in maintaining this crucial piece of infrastructure. We know that the combo template plus community CLI has been used successfully for years to build React Native apps. However, we don't consider them a React Native framework, because they lack all the various tools, such as navigation, routing, and so on, that are needed to build production-ready apps. Hence, we are not recommending them anymore. Inside the CLI, we evolved some commands and moved them inside React Native Core to make them reusable across different frameworks. And also, we updated the init command, as I mentioned before, to follow our recommendation. So in the future version of React Native, if you attempt to invoke the init command, you will see this warning. The init command is deprecated, and this behavior will change in the future. You can still retain the whole old behavior by invoking the init from the CLI directly, or we're going to point users to use to check out the Getting Started page on the reactnative.dev website, where we'll be recommending folks to use a React Native framework. So as I promised, little to nothing changed for app developers, right? All we did is basically clarifying what is happening behind the scenes. So now let's move on to library developers. If you're a library developer, there are two APIs that you could use today to create your library. On one end, you have framework-specific APIs and abstractions, such as Expo modules. And on the other end, you have core APIs from React Native, such as, for example, Turbo modules. Now you might be wondering, with React Native frameworks becoming the recommended solution, what should I use? Well, here the answer is like everything in engineering. It depends. If you're looking for an API which has better ergonomics and generally a better developer experience, go framework-specific. For example, Expo modules has great support for both Kotlin and Swift, and just makes for a better developer experience. On the other hand, if your library uses Expo modules, you'll be imposing a framework dependency on all the apps that are using your library. So this comes at the cost of reduced compatibility for your library. So if you're looking into wider compatibility for your library, you should consider using core APIs. So in a sense, Expo modules, framework-specific abstractions, gives you access to higher-level APIs, while React Native core APIs offer you access to lower-level APIs. To give you a practical example, if you want to write like C++ code in your library, you're better off using the React Native core APIs. We believe that framework-specific APIs like Expo modules are a great incubator for new APIs that can later be upstreamed inside React Native core. So yes, I understand that asking library developers here to make a choice between framework-specific and Expo modules and core APIs, Turbo modules, and so on is not ideal at the moment, but we're working closely with Expo to fill the gaps here and harmonize those APIs. So now I talked a lot about what are React Native frameworks and how they're going to impact you. And I want to touch on why we are making those changes now. So when React Native was first open source in 2015, it was basically an hackathon project. There was no React Native ecosystem at the moment. We just created a tool that lets you bring your React code from web to native, and we gave it to the hand of the open source community, hoping it to grow and foster. Well, now things have changed. Yeah, last week at React Conf, we mentioned how the React Native package is downloaded weekly more than 2 million times. And new folks downloaded the npm package of React Native in 2023 78 million times. We are not a hackathon project anymore. And let's be realistic. Like if you were to use only the APIs that are provided inside React Native core to build production-ready application, the quality of the apps you'll be building will be suboptimal. Like you will have a really hard time. We now have a huge ecosystem of libraries and tools out there, and we wanted to point new users towards those tools. And here I want to echo some of the words that Charlie mentioned on this same stage at App.js last year. He mentioned how users are asking this question over and over again. Should I use Expo or a bare React Native without Expo? Well, we wanted to sort of answer this question once for all. Charlie mentioned how Expo wanted to make this question obsolete, and I can't agree more with him on this statement. He mentioned how putting users towards this hard question from the get-go is just like, it's hurting the whole React Native ecosystem. So we folks from the React Native team totally agree with those statements. We want to expose new React Native users to the best developer experience ever. And we strongly believe that this is through a React Native framework. We strongly believe that this is through Expo today. So we took home those words from App.js 2023, and we built on it for over a year. This is a picture from the Core Contributor Summit we had in September 2023. And I recall we had a 3-hour session on frameworks. And trust me, it was intense. The beauty of the React Native community is how heterogeneous it is. We do have a huge variety of different companies, contributors, and players that help us shape the future of React Native. So we took very seriously the opinions of everyone involved in this conversation, and over the past month, we spent time defining the concept of React Native framework through an RFC. And you can find a discussion and proposal repo. The proposal is quite lengthy, so you can go check it out. I presented the highlights today, but we wrote it so much in detail because we wanted to move the entire ecosystem along with us in what I personally believe is going to be a stepping stone for React Native as a whole. And inside the RFC, there is one section that says why we're defining this now. And at least for me, probably the most important point is fostering a healthy community. By defining what is a React Native framework, we are defining boundaries between different tools and players and how they interact with each other. And this will just help us grow together. Again, I strongly believe there is a huge stepping stone for a brighter future, a future where React Native users are exposed to the best developer experience on the market, thanks to React Native frameworks. So when you go back home, think twice if you really want to build your own framework or use a React Native framework. That's all from me. Thank you very much, and enjoy an amazing conference.